Meanwhile, on high ground, Snacky finds the high ground position. Bucky and Okus broken apart as well. Okus is down now. And it's looking like all solos minus Tayson and Iamzo.
Tayson and Iamzo thought they were going to make a play for height sooner, but it seems as though they were content to just completely control the low ground instead. Tayson, again, finding another knock, just assisting alongside of Iamzo. Both of these players, though, doing such an excellent job at tarping forward. They've got completely uncontested ground laying out in front of them. It's only Acorn with 4 HP just about if they break through his shield. But Acorn trying to make a massive play. Good side jump. Snacky actually going to be the one to find Tayson, though, in the feed.
Finishes him off there, and just like that, Acorn levels the playing field. Look at the HP counts. No one is safe. Iamzo falls into low ground, and now it's Vino, the king of EU here on the NA region, looking to lock in this first win potentially, but Snacky dips into the storm with the early heal here. It was a little too early though, if you ask me. Vino walking his way, the smarter move to stay alive. It hits the shot for the credit of the elimination there in the end.
That's just extra points at the end of the day, MDF. Veno likely wasn't sure if it was going to come down to a heal-off or not, but I'm right there with you. Snacky just a little bit too preemptive with that medkit. At the same time, though, the chaoticness that unfolded, so many solos just forced to try and duke it out at the end there.
One thing we love about Vino, the confidence, right? He's been talking about how he's going to show up here on the NA region. You know what? When the pressure's on, when we're in these set lobbies here, this is where he shines best. Decision-making at an all-time peak. Congratulations to Clix and Vino with a Game 1 win here to kick off the NA qualifier. And I mean, Taco, there was a reason, right? We were looking to these EU duo hybrids.
Hey, there's a reason too why Clix and Epic would split, because Clix completely understand when it's Veno that you're looking to play with, and Veno indicating exactly what he is made of. But we've got all the action and plenty more to come, so make sure you stay tuned because we'll be right back after the short break.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. We just wrapped up game number 1. And hey, did you catch what we saw in that last? It was chaos. Chaos here in just game number 1 of the FNCS. First off, massive shout outs. Clicks, Veno, they got themselves the first game of the day. Wow. You know, as MDF said before we went to break, yeah, there's a reason we're looking at these hybrid duos, right? Clicks obviously from NNA, Veno coming over from EU, and now they're looking to make a statement. Hey, NA, everything you thought you knew, all the comfort that you had, all the, you know, easy time, so to speak, you had, well, I'm Veno. I'm here to shake up the whole region, baby.
You saw that top 9 is when Veno was a solo, right? Started that clutch performance, and being a solo in a duos competition, this is crazy because like Fortnite, sometimes it just surprises you, catches you off guard, because we were like watching Snacky kind of 1v1 Acorn, who was very, very low, and then we like blinked, switched around a little bit, and then, you know, 3 seconds later, Snacky's just like on the higher gun. Another couple seconds later, Veno's on the higher gun. Ends up winning the game though. Kelly, I feel like if Snacky played that med kit just a little bit later, he might have had a better chance.
Yeah, but when you're going up against a player like Veno, it wasn't even down to the heal off. Veno literally got the final shot on him to grab that elimination and just a few more points. But I want to go back a few weeks when Veno first came over to NA and he said, you know, I want to give Clicks his first win for the FNCS. And after that game, it's looking a lot more likely.
I mean, yeah, this is not something we're used to, right? We don't often see players come over and then come out with a bang, right? This is Veno. If you've never watched EU for some reason, which I urge you to do so, Veno is definitely one of the best players in EU and is now coming to play here. And you pair him up with Clicks, I don't know what is happening anymore. It's just going to be amazing. Let's take a look at the standings. Let's see how things kind of went after just game number 1. Again, very chaotic. That Nitro playing a big factor. No box is safe. But as we kind of turn attention to these standings, guys, there's 3 teams that are kind of leading the pack here.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we talk about the duo that was doing extremely well? I mean, when we first tuned into them, Tayson and Yamzo, they had 5 eliminations in 8th zone. It's like, whoa, where did you guys pick up all of those eliminations from? Of course, ended the game with the most as well, with double digits, 10 right there. And what a play style from them, right? It seemed like they were able to play multiple different ways that game.
Yeah, I love that they're sticking to the mid ground right there. Obviously, low ground's going to be very chaotic with the Nitro, and they didn't really seem to try and fight for high ground. It may have been that it was so chaotic that they didn't find any value in it. Instead, stuck to the mid ground. You can see that they're kind of chopping up the high ground, as well as going for the eliminations on the low ground when it is necessary. So they're able to end that game with so many eliminations right from the get-go after game number 1. It's definitely going to set themselves up for the rest of the day.
Trying to go for a cheeky play there, Yamzo. I almost, you know, it's so funny, like, Vivid, you joke, but like, I almost wanted to say Yamzo and Rise. It's Yamzo and Tayson, Zeke. Get it together. In 3rd place there, though, Manji and Snacky also having a really good first game there, kind of making it to that top 3, kind of showing off, hey, look, listen, I don't know what's going on in NA, but if there's one thing you can count on, it's Snacky.
I mean, Snacky was popping off. Somehow Bucky and Okus were on height as a duo, by the way. And tuning into Snacky towards the later parts of the game, it seemed like he was solo clutching as well. And then, like I mentioned before, we kind of blinked and Snacky somehow took height from Bucky and Okus as a solo. Crazy stuff.
Well, if we're going to talk about solo, we have to talk about Acorn staying at 4 HP for 2 zones there at the very end. My goodness. But if anyone's going to do it, it's Acorn and Cold. Acorn, one of the most incredible players from North America, one of the most consistent players as well. And even when he loses his duo made of Cold, he's still not going down without a fight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I kind of thought about it as we were watching this game. I was like, you know what, this meta might be very, very good for Cold, actually, right? He's somebody who likes to be involved in those kind of box fights. He's somebody who thrives in those little micro adjustments, those micro mechanics that are required to actually win these box-to-box duels. And as you can see right there, as I say that, you know, a missed shot is going to cost him that elimination right there. But yeah, this meta could be very, very good for Acorn and Cold, a team that thrives on being very, very calculated, but then Cold always there to be mechanical.
Yeah, and I mean, with it being Brutal Beachhead that they're landing at, obviously they're going to get the Mythic Combat Shotgun, but also that Nitro, the Infinite Nitro Medallion, definitely going to help them at the end game here. Allows for one of their slots to kind of open up for more heals, and we do know the potential of it coming down to a heal off, so just all around great performance, but that's what we can expect from our Major 1 winners.
Yeah, these guys are already qualified, right? They're already got their spots at the Global Championships, and now they're just looking to say, hey, look, Infinite Nitro, whose box are we jumping in? How are we going to look to make sure no one else can compete and just kind of gatekeep those spots, right? With 10 spots going to the Global Championships, you know there's a couple names that have already qualified. They're already good. Now it's just, who do we stop? How do we make sure that it's very difficult for all these teams trying desperately to make one of these top 10 spots? With that being said, though, I know you want more action. Let's get back into the chaos, all right? We've got your casters, MDF, and the best taco standing by. So, friends, what are you?
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, I do just want to touch on the game one winners there because, you know, it is worth mentioning we've never seen Clicks better, right? We're watching prime Clicks and arguably a prime Vino right now paired up with one another. And it is very interesting how, like, teams with no chemistry, right, can get together, but just based off of pure skill perform so well, Taco. So I do think we're going to see all these hybrid duos up at the top, snatching up spots from other NA players.
I think part of it, though, is that Clicks and Veno, all of this has basically just been a learning process for each other's synergy. It's been a tough ride as well, but Veno, he's out here looking to defend his reputation, and when you start off with a victory royale in week 1 quals here for Major 3, that is a pretty massive statement, MDF, and excited to see what happens and how things shake up here because we've got lobby number 2 ready to go.
Game 2 is here, and that is exactly how you want to get it done. Lock in a big win, put yourself up at the top of the standings, and then keep pumping your way through the weekend here. Well, we'll see what's going to happen here as the battle bus starts to deploy the players off the bus here. This time's going to be a lot different. Game 1, worth noting, was a pretty northern bus zone, so all those teams that were contesting these, like the Red Line Ridge down south, right, it really does become a level of finesse when it comes down to landing, and we already know there's a several amount of teams being contested. This zone, though, or this battle bus in particular, is going to allow these teams to have a little bit more of a shotgun run and go drop spot. Let's see how it's going to work out. Cease tries to find some protection, and it works out to at least keep him alive a little longer, allowing Jack to get the better hand here. And this is different from the last game. So Cease and Jack 1-1 now up against the power duo.
But what a clutch there from Jack. I mean, we all saw it. Cease, he had nothing off of that initial drop, but Jack immediately picks up the leftover pieces, closes out the fights. You have to respect the emotes. They're letting Alex and Worthy know this is not going to be a free POI here at Restored Reels.
If players could talk to one another anywhere but here. Take a look at the highlight at the Red Line Rig. This is looking like a little bit of deja vu for Crackly and Roller. They jump in, they get a couple eliminations. And once again, they're going to be the last team sitting on the throne so far.
Still potentially another team to clear out, though. But the action just continues to ensue everywhere else. Isho, Seprovac, Pleasant Piazza is all theirs for the time being, and now it's all going to be emphasis on just securing their loop path and deciding where to next. Have a feeling they could find themselves looking to make a rotate potentially for a forecast tower, but again, the world's kind of their oyster at this point, given that when you start off with those early eliminations, MDF, it's just a nice amount of surge that you're confirming super early on.
Yeah, and on the other token there, or the other side of the token, you know, you have people like Muzz getting to sit out for an entire game back-to-back. Just really tough spot to be in either way. Bacon, though, solo right now, on the run. Duo chasing in, and map awareness coming into full effect here as he knew exactly where he wanted to go hide. Right underneath this bridge here. It's Roxanne and Dax. We already saw them putting up numbers in the previous game there. No strangers to early battles or late game fights.
Granted, they're trying to be on the winning end of an early fight this time around, considering how lobby number 1 actually panned out for them, where they tried to contest the Roller and Crackly initially at Red Line Rig. Seems as though they've reverted back to their initial starting point at Sandy Steps, but they are certainly looking like they're intentionally avoiding that early contest with Clicks and Benno. Possibly scouted out Bacon, and we're hoping for just an easy cleanup since Bacon is a solo.
Yeah, they're 100% looking for bacon. They're probably thinking, where did this guy go? Rising Ages right now. A little early to be fully boxed up. What is happening here? A lot of teams in the vicinity. Meanwhile, Bolt and Bryce taking that quite literally. They're like, we're not going to allow anyone to just be chilling right now. It's time to fight. Early surge battles, and of course looking to position themselves up. Ritual on the run right here. Nitro splashes coming in to the benefits of Bolts and Bryce right now. Worst spot to be in.
Both of these teams are just zooming right now. Bolts and Bryce still giving a little bit of respect here. Massive tag, though, out of that gatekeeper. But it's not a hammer pump, so Bolt, he's still going to have to confirm at least one more if he wants to take out Ritual. Bryce tags from behind, but again, it's going to come down to Bolts to try and close that distance. They haven't had a chance yet to recuperate their shield, so a little bit of a risky play here, but it could have some massive payoff for Bolts in the long term. And sure enough, Ritual, he is down to his final bits and pieces. Definitely left in tatters, and if he's not careful, he might run smack dab into another team directly at Grand Glacier, and that alone, Bolts knows this has gone too far. He'll just cut his losses. Would have liked to pick up that elimination onto Ritual. Instead, he knows if he pushes any further there, he'll wind up getting eliminated himself. And at this point, Bolts and Bryce, they've already done the damage. It's the forecast tower that they were after here at Dumpenhausen.
Yeah, Ozone just essentially gets delivered. Ritual with a free elimination right there at the top of that mountain. It's going to be Raps. Meanwhile, Blaha mixing. Saw last game, Blaha left by himself there, unfortunately. Come that mid-game rotate, coming laid out the Storm. We're caught on the edge of the zone. Let's see if they make adjustments to their playstyle. Hugo and Aviv back as stylish as ever. Very reminiscent of Major 1 when we saw their appearance. Okay, sitting on top of Pilot here.
Yeah, it's an early rotate from Buga and Aviv. Coming out of Classy Courts, they're definitely looking to see if they can potentially pick up an elimination or two onto Pilot and Flix. But from what we saw out of Flix in the last lobby over at Rift Island, he's definitely got some very strong aim. But Pilot could be in a world of trouble here. Buga has been tagged just a little bit, and it does seem as though there is a potential third party looking to fire some shots over towards Piney Lane. It's bound to attract some attention with the amount of pistol damage that Buga is trying to apply to these builds, but Pilot and Flix, they know better. They're just playing side by side. They're essentially telling Buga and Aviv, this fight's only going to continue if you make sure that you come to us. And at this point, a decent amount of materials having been expended as well by Pilot and Flix, so they just don't seem all that interested in this engagement, though.
I do love how we get to highlight, though, Aviv's prowess here as he led all player eliminations, 99 elims in round number 3, just really highlighting the fact that Aviv does and has had his incredible moments throughout this season so far. Sitting amongst this best of the best players. Essentially round right now. This here, though, we have to jump in with Cold and Acorn. 2 angles onto Snacky and Mazia. They have no idea Cold's behind them. Something, though, tells them to block a wall behind them, playing it safe. And Snacky, though, no roof there. Cold immediately initiates the fight here. Already under the effects of the bash there to be able to get inside with the Nitros and see how it's going to play out here. This is what Cold does best, cutting off his opponents here. They own the top layer. He owns the bottom now as well. And just like that, before they even recognize what happens, each player picks up an elimination. Cold and Acorn come out ahead. Max material count, all the damage that they were looking for, and that's our second place team there. So they're immediate competitors as far as the standings are concerned right now. It's going to jump them straight ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a massive shutdown by Acorn and Cold.
A huge setback, right?
Exactly, and it's going to leave Snacky and Magia in a position now where With the 4 remaining lobbies, you know, now they've got that thought in the back of their mind, hey, maybe we have to worry about this Acorn and Cold rotation each time, because they're looking to try and make that move through dead side instead. Cut off immediately. So I like the adjustments though from Acorn and Cold, and love that pincer maneuver as well. It's just a classic really from those two. You see Acorn on the front side of the boxes. You got Cold pressuring from the back. It just doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room, and it can be tough to micromanage what's actually occurring when you have the Nitro splashes as well, just tearing through builds.
And you have someone who just performs, you know, at his peak when he can take you and be aggressive in a box fight engagement. So Cold has, quite honestly, everything that he needs going for him, and Acorn couldn't be more, you know, have a more suitable duo. We already know that they are, I guess, now becoming one of the most long-standing duos that at least are remaining, right, in the current stage of the, you know, the FNCS as far as the last couple of years are concerned, and they just will continue to perform. I do expect them to be at the top of their game, and the season so far is shaping out to be a very good one here for Cold and Acorn. But Vixen and Blaha, story continues for them. The rotates are in. We gotta love the Nitro Splash, allowing teams and players to utilize this unlimited sprinting. That alone is such a powerful, powerful addition to have onto your player. Vino as well. Alongside Clicks utilizing to get their rotate going.
You can see what Veno has in his sights as well. Seems as though they had positioned a little bit earlier on for that forecast tower, but big trouble here for Tayson as Yamzo gonna get picked off. That weapons bunker might have just been their demise. We saw Yamzo run in there, and it only took moments, seconds for Disaster to strike here. Edgy just not letting up the pressure anytime soon. But Tayson is just better. Massive shutdown here as Tayson continues to hold his own. This is so winnable currently for Tayson. You have to imagine that a little bit of panic starts to break out in this kind of circumstance here for Death.
Can we just talk about how deliberate that setup was? And Tayson might just do it again here and find this elimination, utilizing the Nitro Splash to break through the walls now. Secures his elimination. Death is so incredibly hurt right now, but you could just tell he had nothing but bad intentions the moment he walked into that room, positioned himself up, and immediately turned around for the fight. It's like you walked into the trap, the villain's lair, and you had nothing you could do to defend yourself against it. In fact, we should just watch it back one more time. Walks in and just boxes up, teaches Edgy a lesson for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Nitro Splash can definitely empower you, but barreling in blind at times, it can come at a pretty steep price, because that's going to be a tough spot as well for Death to even look for that reboot card. And with that reboot van directly next to where Tayson was at, have to expect that he's going to look to be able to bring Iamzo back into this one. It almost really seems as though Tayson was just annoyed at the fact he's like, what are these two doing? Why are they bothering me and my duo? But yeah, that is not the turnaround that you would want or expect from Edgy's position.
It's really cool to see players that have the capability to perform as a solo really thrive in the current kind of state of the game here. The Nitro Splashes, the, you know, the Cola, right? You just have all the arsenal that you need to either rotate or fight, right? And whatever's your playstyle can perform. Lucas and Bucky here. Gonna take a standoff against Cold and Acorn. They don't quite want this, though. It seems like they were looking to back off, but third party comes in, and all of a sudden now, here comes Acorn and Cold, giving them exactly what they wanted, a piece of a fight. Cold's gonna find his first few tags, and you can see he even pre-popped the Cola here, getting into the battle. He's gonna go for the second now as well.
Another tag connected onto Acorn. He'll be able to recuperate his shields, though, as Okus and Bucky, they look to just tag team next to each other one more time. They were a little bit split there, trying to take separate engagements, one applying pressure onto Acorn, the other onto Cold, but they recognized the fact that they needed to reunite. Their best odds whenever a third party gets involved is just to sit tight for a moment. They know Acorn and Cold aren't going to want to just key them when there's another team applying pressure from elsewhere. And Bucky, he's made himself and Okus's strategy very well known. I mean, they're playing for bunkers and Rift Island every single game, and given where Rift Island had spawned in at, can't say I'm surprised to see Bucky and Okus so willing to try and hold down that position.
Do keep in mind, Tayson and Yamzo are playing off the reboot, and now look at this, right back in the game as if they never had that little hiccup occur in the first place. A third elimination as well, assuming that they probably picked one up fighting for the bunker here to get Yamzo's loadout back in order. Vanilla's and Convict on the Rift Island here. The second time now. Seems like they've decided to go ahead and fight for this. They've got much more company this time around here and a lot earlier.
You have to remember, too, a lot of these teams seemingly hurting for materials. Paco, though, what he needs right now is brick more than anything else. And granted, there is plenty of it to be found on Rift Island, but when you are in the vicinity of several other teams,
Acorn,
things can definitely get pretty treacherous here. And yeah, Cold Acorn, they might have seen Bucky and Okus head up to Rift Island, and they wanted to pick up where they left off. But things aren't going to be as easy as they might have originally seemed when they tried to go for that initial 2v2, because now again, you've introduced the interruption factor, these other teams on Rift Island that could potentially come into play. And keep in mind, after that first lobby, this is our 4th and 5th place teams on the leaderboard. But Cold and Acorn, they seem as though they found a little bit of a direction, a little bit of leverage. They're gonna try to play things through the actual house itself here on Rift Island, and they might be able to sneak up on Vanillas and Convict, but it's Bucky that they're gonna encounter first.
this is big for Cold and Acorn. I mean, what's going through their mind right now is that they're in a situation here where they need the upgrades, but they also need the loot. They need more material, right? They're not quite set up for a big splashy end game. So an elimination here, finding a full pickup would be quite favorable so far. They've already found some mini shields. They've already gotten a little bit of mats off of this. What more can they steal now?
Well, for a moment, they were almost in a lot of trouble, but the damage threshold seemingly jumping up in their favor. Booga attempting to rift in and immediately gets knocked out of the skies for it. Well executed play there from Vanillas and Convict. They're just steadily aware, but like the fact that they bailed out of that position from Rift Island. Just too much company for their liking. Rather create some space, box up, and then look to see where they should head next. But they might even be able to scoop up another couple of eliminations if Paco and Forteca aren't careful.
I will say, all credits to Booga. Like, how do you know if there's 4 teams on the Rift Island, right? You know, from his perspective, he's hearing shots go up above.
He's probably just
Cold
trying
and
to rift.
Acorn. Yeah, he's like, oh, this is a great time to rift. They're fighting up there. No, because meanwhile, there's also Vanilla just up top, not necessarily engaged in the antics happening up here. So all in all, a little unlucky. Those kind of things are gonna, of course, happen. But Cold and Acorn feels like they are starting to overstay their welcome. And I mean, Okus has got to make a move here. I don't think the Nitro Splash is going to give him any extra whites, so it's all or nothing here now.
At this point, Okus knows that he is toast. Acorn gonna get credit for that elimination. Nitro Splash immediately running off. Now it's all about heading into zone themselves. Bucky likely picked up earlier on by the duo of Cold and Acorn. We'll actually get a moment to take a look back at that action, because right now, Cold, we talked about it earlier on, this guy loves to contest other players, especially when it comes to these box fights, and that is a massive bash through the wall and just bashes through Bucky's skull at that point. There is not much left to do when you just immediately receive a shotgun pump to the face.
Live standings update puts Clicks and Vino up in second, trailing behind Tayson and Yamza right now. Mero in pink. Didn't have a donut game last round. They earned a little something here. Now is where things are going to start to really pick up the pace as we are approaching placement thresholds. A lot going on in the distance, but no opportunities revealing themselves from Miro and Pink just yet. Much more favorable position. Look at this. Vino and Clix have eyes on the entire low ground and plenty of boxes here to choose from.
What matters right now, though, for Veno and Clix is if they can control this current position. They don't want to allow any other teams to box up close by to where they're currently located. So it's very important for Veno. He's just adamant as ever, trying to apply some tags, apply some pressure. Those teams a little bit further out. Yamzo and Tayson, though, continuing their steamroll. 6 eliminations now to count. They have definitely been turning on the Jets here in this one. And it's crazy to think about because, again, they really did take a pretty early hiccup due to Edgy and Death. And yet it seems as if there was never any interruption at all.
I am curious as to what is this team's secret to success right now? Is this the second game now, back-to-back, we've seen them leading with eliminations this early by a pretty wide margin. And not only that, we're talking they're coming out of a peaking, duo Cash Cup performance as well. So there is clearly something that this team knows or understands about the current state of the season that others are just not quite getting. Talking about pretty desperate duos and positions are concerned. Aviv and Booga not looking too hot right now. Aviv is a solo, just a singular in Elim at the moment.
It's looking like a slightly better game here for Day and Redux, but they'll find themselves, at least Redux, with an elimination here as Miro, Pink, looking to pick up the other now onto Day. They spotted out the fact that at least one of the pair had gotten knocked earlier on. They knew that they could just charge right in off the Nitro Splash, and again, good little materials refresh that they seemingly needed. A couple of players kind of hanging towards the backside of his last zone, but Ozone curious whether or not he's going to be able to find the tags that he needs to get himself above that damage threshold. Right now, the Storm Surge is seeming like his biggest opponent.
I was going to say, we haven't seen Surge last very long yet, although this is only the second game. Look at this, 10 eliminations now for Cold and Acorn. I might have spoke too soon for the likes of Tayson and Yamzo with the elimination leads. Conversation. And then Cat material as well, so not any pushover duo they just took down. They took down a team that was very well suited for an end game there.
This is just very much looking like it's like a feast or famine. The teams that are succeeding, we are seeing them just max material count, plenty of shield, ample nitro splashes, and then you've got players like Ozone that are just struggling, depleting every single one of their shield resources that they have. And for what? Because at this point, Ozone, he's just looking for that one extra placement, just a little bit more. Maybe he can find that tag that he needs to come up big, but it's going to be so difficult. If anything, he could play spoiler here for Crackly. Currently, Ozone, though, missed the opportunity. You can tell that he wants to go back for more, but at the same time, when you're dealing with the likes of a duo as a solo, but he's just desperate. He needs damage, and he has to find it now.
I think he was looking back and probably thinking that Crackly was a solo, given the limited amount of tags, and honestly, it might be working out because they have to surge on top of them, and Ozone barrels his way in, misses the down body, though, and those... Oh, no, he did get the tag. Okay,
oh my...
there's the damage he needed. He's at a single HP here. I mean, do you even use the Fizz at this moment? I guess the 15's not going to do much for you, but it's better than nothing to give him some HP to work with here. He needs that loot, and he needs it now. And there he is, going to start ever slowly working his way towards it. Still very much cautious. There's a fish. There's 4 fish. Okay, that's actually a major find right now.
But is it enough is the real question. We are watching Ozone, though, just continue to try and secure placement points, if anything. That extra elimination definitely paying off for him, buying him just a couple more seconds, if anything. But when you look up at height, it's all about Vorteca and Paco. And they are fairly far up currently, MDF. Without the Boombo, you would think that height could be free, but the chop out, not going to be too much of a threat. Vorteca still had an underworld dash to use, but now it does expose them to that secondary height layer and potentially getting overthrown if they're not careful. They've got to make sure that they continue to suppress these lower layers. Otherwise, they might find themselves getting chopped again, but this time eliminated.
Yeah, we have yet to see a team take height that early, that high, and be successful. For Ozone, he's just fighting a completely different demon down here. He's got no surge, he's solo, barely any shield to work with. Whatever overshield is going to give him the confidence at this point. And this is just a tough spot, but he is clutching up, doing his best. Already we've seen him earn at least 10 points on his own here, which is massive. Clix and Vino still alive there. Tayson alive as well. Here's Clix and Vino's perspective. Looking a little worse for wears. A lot of heals to work with, but no time as they're in a race against the clock here to get to the front side of zone. They're looking up, trying to get this back-to-back right now. The edits are open.
Again, Paco and Vorteca relatively high up. Veno and Clix likely going to look to start chopping sometime soon, but they're still trying to be careful. Cold didn't see it coming. Gets knocked and taken down there by Miro. So one more time, we're going to have to see how Acorn is going to operate throughout the rest of this match. Miro, he's got the option there for the Infinite Nitro Medallion. Not sure if he actually had an opportunity to pick it up or not, but he knows he just got to keep tarping forward, keep things moving.
Look at high ground.
Because the moment that he slows down, they're going to look to take over.
Vino looking to defend height right now. Is this Bryson Bolts trying to go for it? It's going to cost Vino everything and Clix. And in the end, it cost them the material, no eliminations. And Vino has to opt to jump down now as Bolts tries to chop them out, but the damage has already been done to both parties here. Clix and Vino respond accordingly there. And now 40 mats remaining. That's just 4 builds if you do the math here. So very tough position for Clix and Vino, but not impossible to secure the win now, as all they would need is a small refresher here. Bulls hit by another team, so Sphinx, Paco, Dukes. It's just a melting pot of action happening here on the mid-ground layer. Sphinx breaking his way into the builds, met with a huge shotgun shot. It is just tough stories unfolding here. And Miro wants nothing to do. He's like, all right, I'm just going to take the placement points. Let me just heal this one out. Ride slowly here into the sunset.
And Veno and Clix, though, they've done a decent job at just maintaining their current height leverage. The zone maybe going to do them a slight favor here. Click's going to opt to drop, though. He didn't have any builds. He's just looking to get eliminations, cause some disruption towards these teams on the low ground. Veno going to drop another layer or two. And again, just working his way down. Knock after knock, elimination to secure it. Veno going back to back here with the victory royales.
I was going to say, the moment I saw the cliff getting the zone pulled over it, that was it. All Veno had to do was ride out the safety of the zone, and he does just that. And in valiant efforts, Clix, of course, jumps into the mix there to throw his hat in the ring, put his damage down, and in the end, they go back to back now. And all right, I think eyebrows are being raised here on the NA region with Vino and Clix absolutely popping off right now, playing exceptionally well, and you just don't get any better than this. There's the tag onto Pars. What a beautiful, beautiful shot there to win it all. And Clix and Vino do it again, this time in even more spectacular fashion, as Clix was a part of that conversation all the way through to the end game there.
You can just tell the amount of trust, though, that Clix had in his duo. Typically, when you see a team in that kind of position, you might maybe have them contemplating, okay, do we split the little bit of materials that we have left, give Clix at least one wall to work with? But no, Veno, he said, I got you. And well, the rest is history. Game number 2 has been locked down one more time by Clix and Veno, but we'll be right back with even more game action after this short break.
it begins. It begins. Veno clicks the rain. It begins right here. Double victory royales, back to back, my friends. Remember, we're gonna continue probably to bring this up. The fact that Veno was like, "Hey guys, I'm a big fan of Clicks. I really want to help him get his first ever championship title." He was serious, Vivid. He was very, very serious.
Did he quote unquote say he's a big fan of Clicks? I don't know if that happened, but teamed up with him regardless. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with the fact that we've played 2 games of this FNCS so far, and not only have they both been won by, of course, the duo in Veno and Clicks, but they've both been won in the same exact fashion, Kelly, and that's going to be a Veno solo clutch.
I mean, you can't ignore the weight on his shoulders right now, but when it's Clicks that's on your shoulders, it's not too heavy to weigh down because Clicks is an incredible player himself. The fight for height that we saw right there, where they were going for it, and then Bryce and Bolts were trying to steal away from them, and they just refused to back down. I love seeing that. 2 wins in a row is such a big way to start off the competition, especially out of a new duo. And you say, oh no, it's already starting. Well, if you look at the leaderboard, it's not just ending with Clicks and Veno. It looks like a lot of the predictions of these European duos have kind of fulfilled themselves. Tayson and Iamzo in second place right there, 32 points behind Clicks and Veno. But of course, we have our Major 1 champions, Acorn and Cole in third, and Batman, Booga, and Rapid, a duo that has really been shining in the last few majors, sitting in 4th place right now.
And to back that up, right, even look at 5th, Pink and Miro, yet another duo that's got this NAEU hybrid. Vivid, this is just the first 2 games of Major number 3, rather. But wow, it is kind of next level to see what is happening in NA right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's super, super crazy stuff, right? And there's so many teams that are kind of coming over and so many powerhouses that are being formed that I even heard Aussie Antics kind of talking about this, is that there's so many being formed that Pink and Miro are one that's kind of flown under the radar. But I was watching this duo, and it seems like they actually have a pretty nice flow and good, chemistry already established in the duo. So this is actually one that I'm pretty excited about. And not to mention, in game number 1, we saw them kind of leaning into an early height hold, early height take. So it'll be exciting to see how they develop as a duo and what strategy they lean towards.
I love that you say chemistry, because that's exactly what I think of with Pink and Miro. Even though they are a new duo, they just have such good synergy going on for them. And that was something that I was a little worried about for Clicks and Veno. If you watch back their Cash Cups, just the vibes weren't there. And I can't wait to go back and watch their streams from today's games, because I'm sure it's just night and day of how the vibes are going.
It's tough, right? Because not only would you expect some of these duos, you just kind of put them together and things would be amazing. Like, oh my gosh, these amazing names, and now they're Titans. But then, like you're saying, Kelly, you look at some of the Cash Cup performances and you're like, what's happening? But then we put them under the lens of an FNCS Major number 3. We're trying to qualify for globals. And suddenly they turn the heat on. They hit the Nitro Splash and say, which box did you want me to punch through, Zeke? We want one of the top 10 placements. Yeah, this is kind of insane, and again, this is just the first 2 games of just week number 1, right? We still have 4 more games on the day. We have a next week to kind of figure out what does the rest of NA do against this?
I don't know. It's going to be tough, but I thought we were going to see, I mean, we still did. We saw a good game out of Acorn and Cold, but they had so many eliminations throughout that game. I mean, we tuned into them, what was it, like 8th zone, and they had 8 eliminations on Cold. But another duo, of course, that did very, very well that game is going to be Tayson and Iamzo. Early eliminations for them as well. Kelly, you were asking, like, where the heck are they getting these early eliminations from?
Yeah, I think just running, if you run into the pathway of Iamzo and Tayson, it is just going to be done and dusted for you. Iamzo, even when he's low, he's still going out strong. And from Zone 7, they had 6 eliminations. They were 800 above Storm, and I really like the way that they're going with dead side rotations. By doing that, they're allowing themselves to kind of position them into an advantageous spot to grab these early eliminations. So that's exactly what we're seeing from this duo right here. But just some big names right now in our top 10. Of course, I do want to give a shout out to Baka and Pars, jumping up 40 placements. But of course, it's game 2. So much can change in the next 4 games, Zeke.
It's a crazy time, NA for sure. 4 more games to go here. I think, okay, so what happens if we go the back-to-back? If they get 3 victory royales, we just start globals, right? Everyone's cool with that?
No.
with that?
We'll play it out. This isn't grands yet, Zeke. Slow it down.
All right, okay, you got me. All right, with that being said, though, enough playing around. We got to jump back into all of the action here from Major number 3. This is day number 1 of it. So, casters, back over to you.
Definitely. Well, we're feeling pretty good after all that action there, and I still can't believe we're even looking at a standing here on the NA broadcast where we get to talk about the likes of a player from Carmine Corp or Team Falcon up in first and second. Just incredible stuff happening here, and I mean, they're keeping us on the edge of our seats, aren't they, Taco?
Yeah, at this point, I think the only thing that would be the real cherry on top for this week 1 performance out of Clix and Veno is if they can confirm a victory royale as a duo. Currently, it's been Veno holding down the reins for those final moments. Granted, Clix nearly made it to the end there, and he did have a huge upset factor for some of those teams on those lower layers, given that he dropped early on. He plays a little bit of disruption, gets those eliminations, but we've got lobby number 3, the halfway point, underway.
That is right. Game 3 is here. A quick recap of 1 and 2. Clix and Veno. That's it. They win. They shut it down. And they do it in spectacular fashion. My, oh my, are we off to such a fun start here for the Major 3. It, you know, really does highlight the fact that these battles in the early game and just the roster right now is so exciting in its own. And talk about fun fights. Team Power versus Cease and Jack. Cease and Jack, this is a 1-to-1. Cease and Jack winning game 2's early battle against this team here, but Alex and Worthy taking game number 1 and making the best out of it.
All Cease has currently, though, that Harminger SMG. Found a few Nitro splashes, though, and that's going to be enough to close the gap. Gatekeeper up against SMG, and it's going to be a W for Cease. Jack on the other side of things, confirming the other elimination there. Alex and Worthy, Oceania has been confirmed, knocked out of this lobby. Current score count 2-1, leading in favor of Jack and Cease.
I love how Cease's immediate response to the continued sign, you know, just the words on it. Anywhere but here. Zooks and Bacon in the battle. Veno and Clix finally getting what we thought they were gonna be met with this entire server or lobby day, and that is a contested fight here for the Sandy Steps. Roxanne putting pressure in from behind. It's not looking good right now for Veno and Clix at all.
At the same time, I think the primary issue currently is that all Veno has to offer is a couple of Thunderburst SMGs. Granted, one of them is a purple, but Roxanne, he's got a shotgun, which I believe he does. Could pose a serious threat here. Veno and Clix, they're just trying to be smart. They're aggressing at the same exact time. That's the easiest way to seal the deal here. Veno and Clix continue to hold it down here at Sandy Steps, and while that might have been a temporary setback, it's not going to intervene too heavily here. We will get a chance to review what actually happened for that first elimination, and Veno, that aim, that precision is exactly what you can expect him to deliver on every single time.
Well played as they wrap up the 2. And well, you know, Roxanne and them were second guessing, landing on Veno and Clix. Now they know why.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Now they know why. They know exactly what is in store for them. So good on Clix and Veno there. It's not like they really had a problem with Surge, but that's just going to sweeten the deal for them that much more for this game here, setting themselves up for success. Batman, Booga, and Rapid maintaining this top 5 position right here, flying under our radars, but Kelly said it best. They have continued to perform well and be outliers amongst this NA roster.
Just a team that likes to play for positioning more than anything else, placement heavy kind of scorecard, but hanging out by the underworld. Do think it's important to highlight the fact that Day and Redux going to be one of the teams that also drops at that POI, and Redux very openly stated on socials, hey, we are keying at Underworld, and we saw them in an endgame where lobby number 2, lobby 1 didn't necessarily pan out in their favor, but it's obvious that the sentiment is there. They are looking to try and be as aggressive as possible early on. So it could be a fight that Batman, Booga, and Rapid won't have any other choice but to conflict with.
Let's watch these highlights right here. DeRoller, Crackley getting active here at the Brawlers. Looking very good for them, and now moving right back to their home drop, the red line rig. See, all this desert biome is going to yield out this cactus here to allow them to keep their inventory looking stacked and max out their shields for the mid game. Acorn and Cold on the move right now. This could be a fun fight up against the likes of Yamzo and Tayson. Shots coming in. Tayson has no idea. Cold's right behind him, and Cold and Miro, again, with Nitro on hand, is always going to be scary. I'm just going to start looking to these controller players that are in peak kind of form to be the highlight, you know, players to look out for right now. I think the meta just suits them so well.
Fortunately for Yamzo from that current position, at least not in Cold's inventory, didn't see him have those Nitro splashes readily available, so that could be part of the reason why he came to a halt there. Maybe waiting for Acorn to catch up. But Booga and Aviv are round 3 leaders. They were first. They had a commanding lead over round 3. And considering that it's a rather significant drop as well, MDF, I mean, you're looking from top 1,000 to top 50 to make it into round 4, and yet it's just been one struggle after the next for this duo here today. Part of it seemingly being that they have just really struggled with their mid game. The rotates not necessarily coming as easily as they might have hoped for, and when they're playing so far north of the map, coming out of Classy Courts, we've seen them already try to get aggressive with Pilot and Flicks, who are, again, as far north as you can be at Piney Lane, and it just continues to be this reoccurring theme of challenge the teams on the north side of the map, but they might be spending a little bit too much time with those challenges, and it could be a big part of the reason why they've had so many struggles with their mid-game entries.
I'm more surprised Booga and Aviv haven't been able to close this fight a lot faster. Like, this
That is crazy.
This is the problem they're having right now, is they're fighting a team that, yeah, I mean, they're just fighting a team that arguably seems to be, you know, on their level, but AB gets a little over confident there and jumps right into a 2v1 box, and then you have Paco looking into put his his influence on the fight here. Booga looking for what was left of Pilot. He had no idea. He was just sitting there in the water. Aviv's gonna be the first to spot him. This is how it should go, right? They need to end these battles